Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are featuring an exceptionally good looking watch from the German brand Mühle. Now, as we all know, they are based in Glashütte, which is a small city in Germany, which has got, you know, a prolific amount of watchmakers there. They've got some really big brands over there, and it's amazing. The whole city is just dedicated, or seems to be, to the art of watchmaking, in both, you know, small manufacturers making parts to the big brands actually operating there. And this brand here is just very cool. Not really a brand you see so much on the internet, which is a little bit unfortunate really, because I believe they do make some very cool watches, and this is definitely one of them. This is part of their Sportivo range of watches, and this one's called the GMT. But before I get too far into the review, I've got to say a massive thank you to the team over at First Class Watches of Kenilworth for allowing me to review this watch. They're a really cracking bunch of guys to work with. Strongly recommend, if you're in the Midlands area, to pop into the actual shop. If you're a little bit further afield, well, don't worry, I'll leave a link in the description and at the bottom of the page now. All I ask, if you do contact them, please mention the channel, because it really would help. So anyway, let's talk sizes. We're talking a 42mm bezel size on this. The thickness of the watch I'm reading at 11.6mm. And the lug-to-lug point across here, that is coming out 50.1mm, and the bracelet size on this is 22mm. Now, the actual dial. The dial, I think, is really just really good in this. It's got enough detail which makes it interesting without making it too busy, which is so easily done with many watches. But this one, well, let's look first. You've got this kind of inner section here. Now, I like how you've got the grey in the centre and it slowly fades out. Now, in all fairness, there is actually quite a bit of writing on this, but it doesn't look like the opening, you know, kind of credits of a Star Wars movie. It's done quite nicely. I like the way they curve this round here. Then you've got the Mühle on there, and just right down here, you've got the automatic GMT, and the 30 ATM, which indicates its water resistance capability of 300 meters. Now, the nice thing is here, obviously, it is a GMT model. We'll talk about that in a second. Now, as we come past this bezel here, the inner bezel, you've got the GMT section. Now, this indicates the time zone for that, and as we come past that, we have this black ring with the applied hour markers on here. Now, there is actually quite a good looking lume on this, albeit it doesn't last as long as some others, but it still looks really good. Not only is the lume applied to the hands and hour markers, but also on the bezel, which looks really cool. And then you have this blue highlight chapter ring going on there, and I like the way they, you know, tie that in with the blue second hand and then the blue on that bezel. It just looks very cool, I think. You do have the date window over here at the 3 o'clock position, but I just, you know, it does look really good. I've known a few kind of, dare we say, diver GMTs. I'm thinking particularly of the Oris Great Reef, I think it is, where they have a GMT on there, but it's incredibly busy. This one is very kind of cool how they've done it. Now, let me show you the GMT, how it actually works on this. Now, obviously, you read the time normally here. Well, one thing I should mention is the hands. Now, in theory, there's nothing particularly special about the hands. You know, there's no chamfers, no sharp edges, all that kind of thing. But what they've done really well. It just looks flawless how they've done these hands. It's just a nice bit of polish work around the side and a big amount of luminous material within. I even like the way the second hand is, there's no tail to it at all, and it's very slim the way it slips onto that pinion there. It just looks very, you know, very elegant going across the dial. And then the GMT hand, you almost don't read it, which I personally think is how the GMT hand should be. It shouldn't be that prominent that you look at the actual dial and you know, sometimes you can misconstrue and look at that and think, oh, is that the minute hand or the hour hand, whatever. This is done so nicely. Now, the way you actually read this, as you can see, standard time is indicating that it's coming on for 5 minutes to 2, whenever, AM, PM, we don't know, 5 minutes to 2. But how you read the GMT hand down here is use your minute hand as normal, so that'll be 5 minutes to the hour of 10. Now, we've stated before, because this is a GMT, this is AM this side, this is PM that side. So it is so simple and easy to read. Now, if I unscrew the crown, being that it is a 300 meter diver, you expect it to be a screw down crown, pull it out to the first click. There, very audible pop on this. Now, if I screw it counterclockwise, I believe that should be the date. And that's the date, nicely flicks over. Now, if I screw it, do it clockwise, you can move a GMT hand. And that's it. And so it's so simple and easy to set up, and you don't disturb the actual second hand there, which is really good. Obviously, if you pull it out one more click, you go straight into hacking. What the hacking actually does, it pushes a small bar. When I mean small, we're talking wafer thin, up against the balance, and that simply stops it. It's such a nice, kind of simple one on the back of this, but it works so well. And that's it, just locks it out. Now, screw that back in. Is it going to go in first time? Yes, it does. So anyway, that is your basic dial on this. It is a very good looking dial, I think. Now, as we come past that, we do have a flat sapphire crystal. The bezel itself, coin edge bezel, sounds like a 120 click bezel. Now, one thing did surprise me. It's bi-directional, which is quite surprising, being that this is a 300 meter diver. You'd think they'd go the whole way and make it only a one direction, but it's neither here nor there, to be fair. The sound is quite muted, it's quite nice, no problem with it. Very light action, to be fair. Yeah, very light. Lines up obviously perfect, you'd expect it to. Now, the actual bezel insert is a ceramic one, so it looks very clean, very shiny, as you'd expect with ceramic, and as I say, is loomed, and I say sits down nicely, looks really good. Now, the case itself, we have a nice, relatively, dare I say it, simple case. We have a little bit of curvature going on there, so it makes it sit down onto the wrist a little bit easier. Fully brushed, you have these nice little chamfered bezels going around there, just nicely done, really. The end links fit nicely into the actual case of a watch. Sometimes you can see discrepancies on some. Sorry, we still have stickers all over this one. But they've done a real tidy job here. One thing of mention is actually the spring bars on this. Well, in fact, it doesn't look like it has spring bars. It looks like it has proper screws which go straight through there. Now, if you were a kind of person who keeps swapping this one out onto a bracelet, I would strongly recommend getting yourself a tool for actually doing this, because otherwise, if you put two screwdrivers in side by side, you're always going to mark the side. It's easy to correct, but I wouldn't recommend doing it. Now, the crown guards look like they've been applied afterwards to the case, but they are lovely. Nice, shiny, contrasts really well with the actual case work, the brushwork of the case, and we have this really cool windmill style crown on there, which has all been polished, so that's really nice. Now, as we come round to the back, we've got a display case back on there, and underneath there you can see the lovely Sellita SW330-2, I believe it is, movement. Now, the -2 basically indicates it had the ratchet wheel change done, and the later models, the -2 is, I believe, have got the 56 hours of power reserve, where they changed the mainspring and thinned out the barrel wall on there. Now, it's a 25 dual movement and is absolutely solid. Being this one's got blued screws on there, I would dare say this is a top grade. I did put it on the time grapher. I did a couple, well, I first put it on there and I think it was coming out at plus 3.54 seconds, which I was quite surprised at, because I thought normally this brand is very, very good when it comes to regulating our watches. So I quickly put it on a DMAG and then put it back on there, and then it was pulling, I think, plus 1 second or plus 1.5. So honestly, guys, if you have a collection of watches, I can strongly recommend having a DMAG, demagnetizing device. I had a cheap one at first, and then I think I brought a slightly a better one, and I did a video on it somewhere, so you can be found on my channel. But they really do make a difference, because every so often your watch will pick up magnetism. And yes, even the watches which have silicon balance springs, because the balance spring isn't the only part of a watch which will pick up magnetism. The rest of the watch can do the same as well. Now, one thing they do at Mühle is they actually put what's called a grasshopper, sorry, not grasshopper, a woodpecker. I'm thinking the George Harrison there. They put on the woodpecker. Basically, it's they call it a shock setting adjustment and a fine set adjustment to the balance lever. Now, how you would regulate this watch, like any other watch, you'd move the regulating arm, but there's normally only so much you can do. It's because when you're trying to get move it by 1 or 2 seconds, moving that arm, you'd be surprised. The slightest of touch can send it suddenly to +10. So what that arm allows you to do is have a very small screw and get a screwdriver in it and adjust it incredibly fine. You wouldn't do the whole regulation with that actual woodpecker arm. You would actually only do the very last fine, the very last 1 or 2 seconds with it. Now, it also has a slight lip, and it goes on to the adjusting arm. And they call it a shock setting. I didn't even know there was a problem with them, or obviously they've found this thing. And to be fair, who cares? It looks good, and I like their theory behind it, so fair play to them. Now, as we come past that, we've got a very kind of chunky bracelet, really. As I say, it's 22mm bracelet. It's very solid feeling. The articulation feels okay, no problems at all. It is screwed, actual screws going through, which makes I personally find much easier for adjusting the bracelet size. Now, the clasp on here, let me zoom out a little bit, that's a little bit too close. The clasp on here is a fold over, fully machined, and what you call it, presses down nice. We still have the stickers on here obviously, but it is all signed up. You have to press both buttons to release it. And the other cool thing, it is a on-the-fly micro adjustment. It has 3 levels of adjustment, so you have to pull this towards the back here. You can see my thumbnail just pulling it back slightly, and then this allows this to come out 3 clicks. Now, the beauty with this system is at no point do you see the extension arm, even at full extension like you do, like say on the new Zin one. And I personally prefer this. I think it's a very good system. So that locates back into there. Now, let me put this on my wrist so you got an idea how it looks, and we'll talk about prices as well. Sorry, quick wrist check. I'm wearing the new to me Fortis, I don't even know what it's called, B52 automatic, allegedly. I think it's a limited edition one. Now, Bob has got the good old young hands on there. I'm a bit of a fan of some of their watches. I think they look really good and they're a little bit different. Now, my wrist size, say 7 1/4, 18.5 18.5 centimeter wrist size, and that's it on my wrist. I think it looks really, really good. Now, prices of this model. I believe the RRP at First Class Watches is coming on for about 2,950, I think it is. But I know there's a discount code. You can get this for at least, I'm guessing, about 2,500. And at that price point, I personally think it's a very, very cool watch. When you put this up to quite a few others, diver GMTs, this actually suddenly makes very, very good sense, and it's that little bit different, and I like that. Let me know in the comments what you think of this one, guys, but most importantly, you all stay safe out there. Take care. Bye.